Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the tawfiq to sit before this very blessed book. It's a book of hadith. What is this, a book of? Or we say ahadith. Hadith is the singular, ahadith is a plural. You know, like you say man is singular and men is plural. So ahadith. What are ahadith? These are statements of the Prophet ﷺ, his actions or his approvals. Does that make sense? And is it revelation? So what's the difference between Quran and Hadith? Quran is all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's speech. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't make up those words. Those were all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This one, he said them, but he didn't used to follow. You know how you and I talk with our desires? The Quran says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't speak from his desires. Even whenever he spoke, it was always revelation. Can you imagine that? Whenever he spoke, it was always revelation. So it's a great honor to study his ahadith. Okay, and when you study his studies ahadith, it's just like you are sitting in his company. He said that when you study hadith, you should sit with that respect. You should sit with the respect that you're sitting with Rasulullah, because we're sitting with his words, and this is as close as we can get. And the topic today is the same topic of last week: virtues of the Quran. Like, what are the rewards when you read the Quran? So I have 6 hadith. So the first hadith here is by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Inna Allah yarfa'u bihadha al-kitab aqwaman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifts people up with the Quran, wa yada'u bi akharin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings people down because of the Quran. So any Muslim community that's gonna, obviously Muslim community, right? Who else is gonna attach themselves to the Quran? Only Muslims, yeah? So those Muslims communities, those Muslim people or communities who are going to connect themselves to the Quran, busy with learning the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take that community up. And those communities who are going to say, let's put Quran behind our backs. Let's not think about the Quran. Let's do something else. Nothing is more important than the Quran. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put those communities down. And it happens like that in community, also individually. This is the rule. So do you guys want to go up? Do you guys want to get advanced and ahead in life? What do you have to do? Read Quran. You have to become busy with the Quran. Now when we say have attachment to the Quran, what does it mean? Does it only mean reading or practicing or both? Both. Or does it mean memorizing? All the three things. Those who memorize the Quran, those who read the Quran, those who practice the Quran, those people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be our superior. Okay, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that ability. So you all are students of the Quran, and your goal, by the way, and you know why you memorize? Many of you are memorizing, right? Arham, you're memorizing. Ahmad, the girls over there, mashallah, the girls are memorizing. Why are you memorizing the Quran? The purpose is so that you can read more easy and more frequent. You can read it in your prayers. Okay, so you have to read. The pious, our predecessors, they were successful because they read lots of Quran. They followed the Quran more. So they're more successful than you and I. So if you want to be ahead of people of your time, of all the Muslims of your time, how are you going to be, Yasin? With the Quran. But you have to occupy yourself with the Quran. You have to be brave enough. Remember that analogy I gave you, what that Sheikh said? That it's more easier to clean the masjid, to vacuum. But it's very hard to pick up the Quran and read. Which was more harder? If I asked you to vacuum the mosque, or if I asked you to sit there and read one juz? I mean, right? People might choose, I'll just vacuum. So it's a little easier. It's more harder to pick up the Quran and read it. But the reward more is where? Reading the Quran. Quran is the best speech. Actually, the Quran is the highest blessing in this world. You know why? Like if I was to say that, is there something in the earth that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is Allah's? We can say it's the Quran, like something divine that's with humans. It's uncreated. It's the Quran itself. So you have to busy yourself with the Quran. And those of you who are memorizing, one of the blessings of memorizing is that you have to keep repeating. Obviously in Ramadan, everybody reads lots of Quran, right? That's the time of rahmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just makes it easy. From Ramadan, we all should take inspiration so that we can read more Quran. Like Ramadan is just a booster. You know, like the booster shot, COVID booster shot. So Ramadan is like the booster shot. So take assistance from that booster. We have to pick up this Quran. If we don't want to pick up this Quran, put it behind our back. We don't have time for it. If you have to attend dars, even attending this dars, when you're attending this, you're occupied with the Quran right now, because you can't understand the Quran without understanding Ahadith. So right now you're busy with the Quran right now. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala count this gathering of ours also part of the Quran, because this is the understanding of the Quran. Hadith are the understanding of the Quran. So everyone understood the first hadith? Right? So any community Muslims who attach themselves to the Quran are going to get up. Those Muslims who put the Quran behind their back, who are just going to memorize and put it aside, just say we're done, we don't have to read, this is just for the mosque, they're not going to get ahead. And I have a story here. Should I tell you the story, or you guys don't like stories? Tell you a story? Everybody likes stories? Okay. Everyone knows Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu? Yeah. So he had governors. Remember, Umar was a Khalifa. He ruled the whole Muslim world. So he had Ahl Mecca. He had governors. What did he have? So he had asked someone. He asked one of his assistants about who he chose as a governor for Ahl Mecca. Right. So his name was Nafi'. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is asking Nafi', who did you choose to put the governor of Mecca? And he said, oh, I chose a slave of so-and-so. So when Umar radiallahu ta'ala heard that, he goes, a slave? Remember, in that community, a slave was the lowest, like in a class, in a human being, in all the people, the low class was who? Who's the low class in America? Who do we look down? We shouldn't pick on them. They're not low, understand? But people have that little thing in them, right? Little racism, that this community is low, that low. Understand? Everybody is equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to them, the slaves were obviously the low class. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala asked Nafi' that, oh, you put a slave as the governor of Mecca? Then he said to him that I did because he knew the Quran the most. The Nafi' responded back. He goes, oh, the reason I chose him, because in our all-Muslim community, that man knew the Quran the most, and he practices the Quran the most. Then Umar radiallahu ta'ala said, okay, that makes sense now. Now I agree with you now. I mean that now you're following the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because Prophet Muhammad said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes people up by Quran and he puts people down because of Quran. Although he's a slave, he's the lowest class, but because he's the most attached to the Quran, he's the guy most deserving of a high position. You like the story? Yeah. So you'll see, children. I mean, my experience, by the way, I've seen it. As adults, you see it. People who are Ahlul Quran, people, you see that their rank is always, in community, you always see they're higher. Usually we're jealous of them. There's a good jealousy, which I'll talk about, inshallah. Which is called ghibta, which way you wish to, you want to be like them, want to be in their positions. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of you students here the ability to memorize Quran, read Quran, practice upon the Quran, the teachings that we give you in these classes, okay, so that you could be amongst them, amongst the people who go up. If we're going to abandon the Quran, you're going to go down. You're going to start busying yourself with the Quran. It doesn't have to be a lot. Sometimes put a little bit. You students who are memorizing Quran, just in the morning, Fajr time is a time of barakah. Isha time, night time is a time of barakah. Just read your lesson 10 times. It works wonders. If a student read his lesson just 10 times, the page that he's memorizing, after a week when he comes to our class, he'll know it. Because Fajr time, Isha time, these are times of barakah. So I encourage all of you. You all are, inshallah, inspired? Inshallah, try to memorize a lot this year. We'll come to the next hadith. I have 5 hadiths, so I'm going to move a little quicker. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا حسد إلا في اثنتين رجل آتاه الله القرآن فهو يقوم به آناء الليل وآناء النهار ورجل آتاه الله مالا فهو ينفقه آناء الليل وآناء النهار. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, there's only 2 people worthy of being jealous of. You get jealous of people, how much money they have, what kind of car they drive. That's not worth it. I mean, even if somebody has it, the rule of Islam of jealousy is generally haram. It's only allowed if you do your jealousy in the right way, which is that if somebody has ni'mah, you make dua for that person, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him with his gifts, and may Allah give him even more. This one is okay. Jealousy, which is haram, how do you do that one? That may Allah make him lose. He has these ni'mats, may they all be taken away. So you all know how to do jealousy in the right way? What is it that you look, and who did the Prophet ﷺ say that's worth being jealous of? Someone who knows the Quran and he occupies himself with the Quran. He's doing some Quran activity morning and night. And the second person is a person who has money and he spends it morning and night. He spends it on all the good activities around him. He gives it to the poor, gives it sadaqat. charities, to the good causes around him. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that ability. Okay, may Allah give us ability that we have money, we spend it in the right places. Be brave about spending it in the right places, and also occupy yourself with the Quran morning and night. Allah give us ability. Coming to the third hadith. How much hadith do I have total? 6. I have 6 hadith. Okay, so I'm at number 3. كان رجل يقرأ سورة الكهف وعنده فرس مربوط بشطنين فتغشته سحابة فجعلت تدنو وجعل فرسه ينفر منها فلما أصبح أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر ذلك له فقال تلك السكينة تنزلت القرآن متفق عليه. The summary of this hadith is by Bara ibn Azib. Oh, look, it's a nice story. You kids like stories, right? All right, I told you this one. So there was a Sahabi, he was reading Surah Kahf in his prayer. What was he doing? Reading Surah Kahf. He had a baby next to him, and he had a horse, and the horse was tied. And a miracle happened. You know, normally when you read Quran, there's blessing coming, Sakina is coming, Rahmah is coming, the angels, all this is happening. Even just to hear you read the Quran, the angels line up all the way to the heavens just to hear you read the Quran. That's all. But it's the most blessed thing on the earth is what? The Quran. Most blessed. And when you read it, you become blessed. You get it, Yasin? Even if you're on Qaida. Yeah. Abadan, ahadun. These are also words from the Quran. Akhadha, adina. So this Sahabi, he was reading, a miracle happened. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up to him. Meaning, well, you know, all these realities that we believe in, it opened up to him. So when he was reading the Quran in his prayer, the cloud came close. He was reading outside in the nighttime, and the cloud came on top of him, and it started getting closer to him. And then he started seeing the nur coming, and he started seeing the angels coming from there. And the horse next to him started getting scared. He was tied, right? I told you he was tied next to him. It started shaking, and there was a baby laying there. So he started getting scared that the horse was moving so much. He enjoyed that, when he's reading Surah Kahf, that the heavens opened up for him. But he feared that the horse would step on the baby and the baby would die. So Allahu Akbar, he just went down. He stopped his reading. Then next morning he met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi. When I say Rasulullah, say it. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he saw him, he told Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this happened. He said that if you had continued reading, these angels would have came down and people would have seen them in the streets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have made this miracle even bigger if you just kept going. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it for you. And obviously for us, because we get this hadith, we get to enjoy that someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up the other world sometime just to give us a sign. He does sometimes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows you signs. Usually all these things are hidden from us, but sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up. So this is a story of where he opened it up. So remember, that's why why do you think your children put you in this Quran school? Because they know that this is priority. That when we ask you to read the Quran loud, we ask you to repeat. This is why we're asking you, Arham. You get it? Yeah. So don't hesitate. You should just read. It cures you physically and also cures you. It's a shifa. Physically, spiritually. That's why that's why parents send their kids to Quran schools. They want them to just read and get from those blessings. Allah give us ability. Okay, next hadith is by Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. He says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qara'a harfa min kitabillah." I hope some people are taking notes. I know girls are usually good at taking notes, so I hope they are taking these quick notes. And I want the girls to report to me if they are taking notes and who's taking notes. And it's best to be taken on a paper, not on the phone. But if you take it on the phone, I don't mind, but I prefer it on a paper for the students. The next hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qara'a harfa min kitabillah falahu hasana wal hasana bi ashri amthaliha la aqulu alif lam mim harf." ولكن ألف حرف واللام حرف وميم حرف. This hadith says that when you read the Quran, for each letter you get 10 good deeds. How many good deeds? That's minimal. How much? Minimal. That's minimal. So if you're reading the Quran, all this is happening to you. The nur is coming. The angels are lining up. You're getting shifa. Anything that you want is going to take place. You know that in your heart you have desires, you have wants, wishes. You don't need to make dua. After because when you read the Quran, Allah is already going to make it happen if you read sincerely. And 10 good deeds for each letter. So alif lam mim, how many good deeds? Like 30, right? 3 letters, alif lam mim. That's minimal. But if you're doing it with respect, like maybe you have wudu, you're sitting in the masjid, you're facing the qibla, then Allah says in the Quran, Wallahu yudha'ifu liman yasha. Allah Ta'ala multiplies it for whoever He wants. So 10 is minimal and it goes up based on your respect. You get it, Musa? So if you add a lot of respect, mashallah, you're dressed according to sunnah, you have your wudu, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're reading it nicely. Look how much stuff you're going to get. So now, are these hadith helping you? Next classes, you guys are going to all read loud? You heard that, brother? Yeah. Are you inspired? Alhamdulillah. Look at all these rewards. I wish I was a student. We adults, but I mean, alhamdulillah, I'm going to have the honor of listening to you all, and your teachers are going to have the honor of listening to you all. Okay, Allah give us ability. Next hadith. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Inna alladhi laysa fi shay'un min al-Qur'an, laysa fi jawfihi shay'un min al-Qur'an kal bayt al-kharib. The Prophet sallallahu, I'm going to go fast now, because I want to quickly finish. If a person in your heart, if you don't have Qur'an, it's like an abandoned house. Imagine you have a big house, there's no furniture, there's no people in it. Are you going to get impressed at that house? No people, you never see people in it, and no furniture, but it's a big house. What are you going to think about that house? You're not suspicious. Why is there nobody in it? Why nobody's buying it, right? But if you see that house and there's a nice family that lives in it, they have nice furniture, nice carpets, they have a playroom, they have a prayer room, a nice family, they call guests over, and that's a nice home, right? So the Prophet gave the analogy that your heart is like that big home. When you read the Quran, then it becomes like those people in it, and that like all that furniture that's in it, it becomes furnished. Yeah. So if you're a Muslim, or let's just say you're a Muslim, you're Hafiz the Quran, but you don't read the Quran. You have Quran memorized, but you don't read it. Then you're like this abandoned home. There's nothing inside. The heart has nothing inside. You fashion your heart with the Quran. You're building things in it. So you need to build these things daily and then preserve it as well. Okay? Preserve it with your istighfar and durud. Allah give us ability, inshallah. The last hadith, عن عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقال لصاحب القرآن اقرأي وارتقي ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلك عند آخر آية تقرأها. That on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, look guys, why do we memorize the Quran? It is said that because when you go to paradise, God will say, read the Quran now. When you show up, they'll just say to you, read. And your station is the last verse that you read. So the scholars say, how do you interpret this hadith? They say, it depends on your shughul with the Quran, your shaghaf with the Quran, how attached you are. So if you're a person practicing the Quran, reading the Quran, memorizing the Quran, you're going to read your verses, and your station will be the last verse that you read. That's who you are. That's your station. And the next Muslim will read, and depending on if he knows a bit more, that's his station. And again, all these three things apply. Continual reading, memorizing, also practicing upon the Quran. That will be your rank. And the person who knows the most Quran is going to be the highest. There's no rank higher than the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me and you a lot of this Quran. We have lots of this Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to read it, to utilize it daily, make our hearts like that very furnished house. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah bil alamin. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah al-azim.